What if your annual family adventure turned into a horrifying ordeal? Picture this. You're setting off with your loved ones on your yearly camping trip. The air is thick with excitement, anticipation humming in every heartbeat. The open road winds towards the familiar campground, where the wilderness awaits with open arms. A dense thicket becomes your temporary backyard as you pitch your tents, the rustling leaves whispering inaudible secrets. As the sun dips below the horizon, the sky is painted with shades of deep purple, signaling the end of daytime's reign. A hush descends, the world holding its breath, and with it comes an unsettling sensation, a prickling at the back of your neck. The campsite, once a picture of bustling activity, now feels eerily still. The anticipation of the day morphs into a sense of foreboding, a chill creeping into the corners of your mind. When the night fell, the innocent family gathering took a chilling turn. The night was dark and full of terrors. As we huddled around the flickering fire, the night air seemed to hum with a strange energy. The flames cast long, grotesque shadows that danced among the trees, their movements unsettlingly fluid and alive. Ghost stories were exchanged, each tale more spine-chilling than the last, their eerie narratives echoing through the silence of the wilderness. An icy gust of wind swept through the campsite, sending a shiver down my spine. It seemed to carry with it whispers of forgotten tales and hidden fears, wrapping itself around us like an unseen specter. The fire crackled and hissed, its flames twisting and contorting as if in response to the chilling atmosphere. The shadows seemed to grow darker, more pronounced. They twisted and swirled, forming shapes that defied logic and reason. The trees around us rustled ominously, their shadows merging with the darkness, creating a wall of inky blackness that seemed to close in on us. And then, the footsteps. Soft at first, barely audible over the crackle of the fire and the rustling of the leaves. But soon they grew louder, more distinct, echoing through the silent night. They were too heavy, too deliberate to belong to any woodland creature. Each thud sent a jolt of fear through my heart, a chilling reminder of our vulnerability. I voiced my unease, but my words were met with dismissive laughter. "You're letting the ghost stories get to you," they said, attributing my fears to an overactive imagination. But I knew better. Something was out there, lurking in the shadows, watching us with unseen eyes. As the night wore on, the sense of foreboding grew stronger. The shadows seemed to pulse with an unseen energy, their forms shifting and contorting in a macabre dance. And then, as the clock struck midnight, a blood-curdling scream echoed through the night, shattering the eerie silence and confirming our worst fears. In the blink of an eye, a fellow camper was gone. The night shattered by a scream that sent icy tendrils of terror down our spines. We rushed into the darkness, hearts pounding in sync with our heavy footsteps. What greeted us was a sight that froze our blood, an empty tent, a trail of torn fabric and bloodstains, no trace of our companion. A chilling realization swept over us like a cold wind. We were not alone. The whispering leaves, the ominous shadows, the heavy footsteps, they all pointed to something sinister lurking in the darkness. The laughter and camaraderie of the campfire seemed a distant memory as fear gripped us. Our sanctuary had become a hunting ground, the predator invisible, its intentions unknown. Yet, despite the palpable terror, determination kindled within us. We had to find our missing comrade. We had to confront whatever lurked in the shadows. Driven by fear and determination, we plunged deeper into the foreboding woods. In the heart of the darkness, an old cabin stood, whispering tales of terror. Our hearts pounded in our chests as we approached the dilapidated structure. Its windows were shattered, doors hanging off their hinges, as if echoing the screams of those who had discovered its secrets before us. Yet, despite its eerie, abandoned state, an irresistible pull drew us towards it. We stepped across the threshold, the creaking floor beneath our feet sounding like a mournful sigh. The air grew colder, the kind of cold that seeped into your bones and froze your soul. The darkness inside was almost palpable, a tangible entity that wrapped around us like a shroud. We ventured deeper, guided by an instinct we didn't fully understand but couldn't resist. As we ventured further inside, a horrifying truth began to unravel. The cabin was not just an old abandoned structure lost to time, it was a gateway, a bridge between our world and another, far more sinister realm. The air shimmered, and for a moment we could see it. A shadowy world where the spirits of the forest roamed free. Their eyes glowed with an unholy light, their forms twisting and shifting in the dimness. They were vengeful, filled with a rage that was as ancient as the forest itself. The cabin was their domain, a place where they could exact their revenge on those who dared to trespass upon their territory. We had stumbled into their world and now, We were trapped. The realization sent a chill down our spines, a cold dread that gripped our hearts with an iron fist. The spirits watched us, their gazes piercing through the darkness. We could feel their wrath, their thirst for retribution. We had entered their realm, and now we were at their mercy. A horrifying thought began to take shape in our minds. Were we destined to join them? To become nothing more than spectral whispers amidst the haunted woods? As the chilling truth dawned upon us, we realized we were destined to become nothing more than ghostly whispers in the haunted woods. Have you ever felt the chilling touch of fear as you drive through a dark, foreboding forest? It's a sensation that clings to you, like the cold dampness of the night air. Picture a family, just like yours, embarking on a simple weekend getaway. A break from the city's relentless clamor, a trip into nature's tranquil embrace. Yet, as the city lights fade in the rearview mirror, an uneasy feeling begins to creep in. The road, a winding snake of asphalt, cuts a path through the forest's heart, leading them deeper into the unknown. Hours slip away, measured by the monotonous rhythm of tires on the road, the GPS guiding them to a remote cabin nestled within the forest's dense cloak. But what happens when technology fails, when the guiding voice fades into silence? Panic begins its insidious creep, gnawing at their confidence. As the last rays of the sun disappeared, we found ourselves swallowed by the darkness, lost in the heart of the woods. The GPS flickered and died, leaving us stranded in the vast darkness. A shiver of fear snaked its way up my spine as the realization of our situation sank in. We were lost, completely and utterly lost in an unending sea of towering trees and impenetrable shadows. The silence of the forest was broken only by the soft hum of the car's engine and the quickening breaths of my family. Panic was a bitter taste at the back of my throat, spreading its icy fingers through my veins. We were alone here, swallowed by the night and the relentless wilderness. In the face of our grim predicament, we made a decision. The only decision we could make, really. We decided to press on, to plunge deeper into the unknown. Perhaps, we thought, we might stumble upon a sign, a beacon of civilization that would guide us back to the comfort of familiar territory. Each passing mile seemed to stretch into an eternity. The forest around us grew more oppressive, the shadows darker, the silence more profound. We were in a world devoid of humanity, a realm governed by primal forces and ancient unseen watchers. The highway was a serpentine labyrinth, twisting and turning without end. It was a test, a trial of our courage and resolve, but we were determined to conquer it, to reclaim our path from the clutches of this ominous wilderness. With no other options, we turned onto a narrow dirt road, praying it would lead us to safety. As the tires crunched on the gravel beneath us, we held our breaths, stepping into the mouth of the unknown. Just when it seemed like all hope was lost, a cabin loomed out of the darkness. In the midst of the eerie silence, a sense of relief washed over us. The cabin, with its windows faintly glowing, was like a beacon in the unrelenting blackness of the woods. Our hearts pounded in our chests as we approached, our footsteps echoing in the still night air. But as we reached the cabin, a chill ran down our spines. The door creaked open to reveal an empty interior, devoid of any signs of life. The light from the windows cast long, distorted shadows across the room, creating an unsettling tableau. The air was thick with a sense of abandonment, as if the cabin had been left to decay for years on end. Yet even as we stood in the doorway, a feeling of unease began to creep in. There was an otherworldly presence in the room, a silent observer lurking in the corners of our vision. The silence was broken by a voice, a whisper that seemed to come from the very walls of the cabin. A voice that was hauntingly familiar, yet twisted by the darkness that enveloped us. The voice was a chilling echo from the past, a memory long buried in the recesses of my mind. Fear gripped me as I recognized it, a cold hand clutching at my heart. And then, with a chilling realization, I understood. The voice speaking to us from the darkness was my own. The cabin, the forest, the lost highway, they were all part of a twisted illusion. An illusion, not a mere figment of imagination, but a terrifying mirage born from the depths of our subconscious. A chilling reality unfolded before us, as we realized we were trapped in a nightmare of our own creation. Not just any nightmare, but one that had grown roots deep within our psyche. It was a labyrinth built from our deepest fears and insecurities, a maze with no exit, no escape. The cabin was not a sanctuary, but a prison. The forest not a mere collection of trees, but a suffocating web of our own despair. The horrifying truth wasn't some ghoul lurking in the shadows, but the monstrous reflection of our own selves. It was the realization that the true horror lay not outside but within us. In the end, we were never truly lost in the forest. We were lost within ourselves, trapped in a nightmare of our own making, with no hope of ever finding our way back home. Our family trip was meant to be a memorable getaway, not a descent into terror. We journeyed to a remote cabin, a speck of civilization nestled deep within the rugged embrace of the woods. Its weathered exterior bore the age-old scars of time, standing as a solitary figure against the whispering trees. Inside, the air was thick with an unsettling silence, a suffocating stillness that seemed to hold its breath. The walls, worn and weary, seemed to harbor secrets, whispering tales of forgotten times. Our parents dismissed our creeping apprehension, labeling it as mere products of our overactive imaginations. They were convinced it was the isolation playing tricks on our minds, the unfamiliarity of our surroundings amplifying our fears. Yet, as the sun began to set, casting long shadows that danced and flickered, I couldn't shake off the feeling of unseen eyes watching us. But as the sun sank and darkness crept in, we were about to realize just how wrong we were. As night fell, the forest seemed to come alive with sinister whispers and eerie rustlings. The silence was replaced by an orchestra of unknown sounds. It wasn't the comforting lullaby of crickets or the occasional hoot of an owl. It was something far more unsettling. The rustling leaves were whispers of the unseen, the wind seemed to carry tales of forgotten horrors, and the distant howls were like a warning we couldn't comprehend. Inside the cabin, an uncanny feeling of dread hung heavy in the air. The atmosphere became denser with every passing hour. The shadows seemed to dance with a fiendish delight, and footsteps echoed through the empty rooms. They were soft, almost imperceptible, but distinctly there, like a phantom presence playing a cruel game of hide-and-seek. Each creak of the floorboards was a chilling serenade, weaving a symphony of fear that made the blood freeze in our veins. The darkness outside was no longer just an absence of light, it was a living entity, a shroud that hid things that our minds could scarcely comprehend. The once inviting cabin now felt like a trap, a cage from which there was no escape. As the hours ticked away, the terror escalated, each minute stretching into an eternity of dread. The scratching at the door, like claws seeking entry, marked the beginning of a nightmarish ordeal. It was a sound that sent shivers down our spines, a chilling prelude to the horrors that awaited us in the sinister nightfall. What lurked in the shadows were not creatures of this world. These figures were grotesque, a terrifying blend of the familiar and the monstrous. Their eyes glowed with a malevolent light, their twisted forms a chilling testament to the perversion of nature. It was as if the deepest, most primal fears had taken physical form, pursuing us with a hunger that seemed insatiable. The realization of our peril hit us like a cold wave, chilling our bones and igniting a primal instinct for survival. The cabin, once a symbol of escape and tranquility, had become a trap. Our sanctuary had turned into a prison, and the woods that were once a playground were now a hunting ground for these nightmarish creatures. In a frenzy of terror we fled, the darkness of the woods swallowing us whole. The undergrowth whipped at our faces, the branches snagged at our clothes, but fear lent us strength. The echoes of our pursuers' growls spurred us on, their twisted laughter a grim soundtrack to our desperate escape. Then, just when despair threatened to consume us, we stumbled upon a clearing. Bathed in an ethereal light was a portal, an anomaly in this world of darkness. It pulsed with an inviting warmth, a stark contrast to the cold dread that had been our constant companion. With hearts pounding and terror coursing through our veins, we plunged into the light, praying for an escape. We emerged on the other side, only to face a horrifying truth. Our idyllic family trip had become a desperate scramble for survival. The cabin, the forest, the very air we breathed, all were part of a twisted dimension that stretched the limits of our comprehension. The creatures from our nightmares, they were not figments of our imagination, but real, tangible threats. They lurked in the shadows, their grotesque forms a chilling testament to the horrors of this realm. Each rustle of the leaves, each creak of the cabin was a stark reminder of the relentless pursuit we faced. Our hearts pounded in our chests like wild drums, the adrenaline fueling our drive to survive. We were a family, united not just by blood, but by a shared terror that transcended our worst fears. Every moment was a test of our courage, our resilience, our will to live. The fight for survival was far from over. Would we ever escape this realm of nightmares?